Ever wondered how the richest nation on earth became one of the poorest? Or how an empire built on tea, railways, and civilization actually ran on starvation, accounting tricks, and human lives? Here's the truth they never told you in school. Because the story of Britain and India isn't just history, it's the blueprint of modern power. And if you're watching this from the United States, you might see a reflection staring back. This is the hidden history of how the British Empire extracted $45 trillion from India, not through conquest, but through contracts. It's the story of how wealth moved silently through ledgers and trade laws from the east to the west, and why that same financial machinery, refined, digital, invisible, still defines our world today. In the year 1700, India was the economic heart of the world. It produced a quarter of global GDP, exporting silk, spices, and the finest textiles known to man. Bengal alone was richer than all of Britain combined. Gold and silver poured into India, not out of it. But across the sea, a small island nation was rising, armed with ships, banks, and a new invention that would change the world, the Joint Stock Company. That's how it began. A corporation with a royal charter, the East India Company, would soon evolve into something no one had ever seen before, a private empire. In 1757, a small battle in Bengal changed the course of global history. The Battle of Plassey. Less than 1,000 British soldiers defeated the Nawab of Bengal, not by strength, but by finance. They bribed local allies, seized the treasury, and installed a puppet ruler. That's when the company granted itself the right to collect Bengal's taxes. A corporation began taxing 150 million people. Imagine Amazon running your government and billing you for it. Within 10 years, the company was siphoning tens of millions of pounds annually from Bengal. London boomed. Calcutta starved. As investors in London grew richer, Indian farmers died in droves. During the Great Bengal Famine of 1770, 10 million people perished, yet company revenues rose. For the shareholders, it was a profitable year. This was more than looting. It was systemic extraction. A machine that drained India's wealth and disguised it as trade. By the 19th century, India had gone from exporting luxury goods to exporting raw materials, cotton, opium, indigo, feeding Britain's factories and its wars. And when the British Crown took direct control after 1857, the system didn't end. It just got more efficient. They called it civilization. They said they were building railways, schools, and law to modernize India. But the railways, they were built to move cotton to the ports. The schools, to train clerks for colonial offices. The courts, to enforce debt. Every gift of empire was engineered for British profit. Guaranteed 5% returns for investors, paid by Indian taxpayers. The risk was Indian, the reward was British. Britain industrialized, India was deindustrialized. The textile mills of Manchester glowed through the night because the looms of Dhaka went silent. For centuries, British historians told us the empire was a force for progress, that it brought railroads, English, and democracy. But they left out the spreadsheets, the ones that showed India paying for Britain's wars, Britain's pensions, and Britain's empire. They called it the Raj. Economists called it home charges, yearly payments India owed to Britain for administrative services. In reality, It was an elegant accounting trick. No goods exchanged, no services rendered, just pure outflow. Over 2 centuries, that drain added up to the modern equivalent of $45 trillion, more than the GDP of the US and China combined. A transfer so vast, it rewired global wealth. Now, pause. Think about today. When developing nations borrow billions from global lenders, who gets the interest? When cheap labor in Asia fuels corporate profits in New York, who keeps the margins? The empire never ended. It just changed its logo. The muskets became markets. The armies became institutions. The IMF, the World Bank, trade agreements, debt systems. Every year, developing nations send over $200 billion more in interest and profit repatriation to wealthy economies than they receive in aid. It's the same mechanism, only cleaner, quieter, and digital. You don't need colonies when you can control credit. When Britain industrialized, it did so with Indian resources, Indian labor, Indian revenue. When America rose, it did so with global supply chains, cheap manufacturing, and foreign debt. Different empire. Same math. Because empires don't die, they adapt. They move from land to ledger, from conquest to compliance. And if history teaches anything, it's this. Extraction is instant. Recovery takes generations. The British didn't conquer India with guns. They conquered it with accountants. And the ledgers they opened in 1757 are still being balanced today, just with different names and newer tools. So next time someone says the age of empire is over, ask them to check the numbers.